Hey everybody, welcome back. This is day 2 of the Caterpillar D2 number 5J1113 diesel engine disassembly process. And if you remember where I left off with the last video, I found that 3 of the 4 pistons had started moving, so I just was going to let them soak again and come back the next day, which I've done. And this thing moves even freer now than it did before, and even better news, number 1 is moving as well. So all of these are now free, and I can just wheel the engine really well by hand. I'm not going to turn it fully over because I don't want to bring number 4 and number 1 up into all this rough surface on the sleeves. So we're just going to leave it sitting right here just like it is, positioned as it is. I know they'll come out, so that's no big deal right there. Pressure's off. So I'm going to resume with trying to get this starting pinion housing out of here. And if you remember where I left off, when the engine suddenly freed up, I was trying to get that latch nut off. I've since done that. I've got the plunger rod out of the end of it and even pulled the gear off of the pinion shaft so that I could fixture this push puller to try and push on the end of the shaft. And as you can tell, if I can get out of the shadow, get out of the light, it has started to move away, and this thing is coming out of the bell housing right now. I've never had to go to these extremes to get one of these out, but then again, I've never had a D2 that was as rusty in the bell housing area as this one. So I'm going to keep applying force to this and finish removing it from the bore. And now that the starting pinion drive is out of the way, I can fully remove its engagement shaft and lever. And now's a good time to get this big heavy flywheel off. I've got all the fold over locks pulled back from the bolt heads, and we'll see if this impact wrench will take them out. Transitioning to the front of the engine now, I'm going to remove the crank pulley next, and it's held on by this claw bolt. Engine 13/16 is the size of that, in case you're wondering. So I took that loose, and since this pulley is on a tapered shaft on the front of this crankshaft, I've used this puller to loosen it up, and I got that done off camera for the sake of expediency. Work it off of crank. And keyway looks in good shape yet, so that's done. Down on the side of the engine now, I'm going to remove these remaining 3 crankcase inspection covers, and then hopefully we can start getting a better look inside of this old beast. And more sludge. Okay guys, after having a bit of a look around in here, I have to admit I'm pretty impressed with how clean everything looks. Not a ton of water damage or rust in here, which is impressive considering we drained 2.5 gallons of water out of this crankcase right after we brought it home. Suction bell down there, oil pump on the far side. Got some sludge settled on the bottom, but I suppose that's to be expected. Kind of liking the looks of this center thrust bearing. I don't see, at least with my eyeball, I don't see excessive clearance on either thrust face, so that's good. Of course, my eyeball is far from being a dial indicator, but all in all, I'm getting more optimistic about the internals of this engine all the time. And taking this opportunity to clear some of that sludge out the bottom of the oil pan. If the lighting is not great, I apologize, but I'm about to flip this engine upside down so that I can disassemble the bottom end, and I wanted to get a lot of that junk out of there before it goes and runs all the way up inside the rest of the block. So I got some more work done off camera. I was able to rotate this engine upside down. I used this hydraulic engine hoist to do it. It was fairly simple. I just hooked up toward the front of the engine and put some good blocking underneath this flat area and this flat area of the bell housing to give me two good solid pivoting points, and just rotated that engine up so that the nose was pointed straight up in the air. I then walked the whole thing closer to the door and set it down on the nice flat surface of this bell housing. It's a wonderful base to stand these engines up with. Then just went, rehooked at a slightly different place on the front of it again, brought it just over center with the hoist, and then gently lowered it down onto these two planks right here. So it's nice and solid, it's not going anywhere, and this assembly is really going to start shrinking fast now. I can start getting some of these heavy, bulky pieces off. So first off is the radiator support, and they're really proud of this piece. They use 14 of these heavy 1/2x13 bolts to hold this one piece on. Well supported anyway. Next I'll get the bell housing off. I'll start with these 4 flange bolts here at the back of the oil pan. And then working from the inside, fold all the lock tabs flat. Remove the 9 bolts. Finally nudge it free from its dowels so you can clear it from the block. Next I'll carefully lift the oil pan off, and care does need to be taken in this area back here because you can hook the oil pump if you're not careful. And finally, with the oil pan out of the way, I can remove the front cover. Okay everybody, we're getting down to the good stuff now. This is where I'm hoping to find as many good pieces as possible. I think I've already found some freezing damage. You can see this front suction bell for the oil pump and tube that feeds the main pump this tube has been heaved right out of the front bell here. I'm thinking that maybe some of that water we took out of the pan was in there, froze, and pushed this out. I don't know. It's also loosened the soldered joint on this front screen too. But if that's the worst problems that I have, that's going to be pretty minor. You can get a look at the main suction bell here with the screen. It doesn't look too bad. There's no telling what the internals of the oil pump are like. It's kind of another reason why I really didn't want to turn this engine too much until I could get some of this stuff off. In case we have some stuck gears in here, I didn't want to overstress anything. But unfortunately, this is going to bring day 2 to an end. I'm running out of time to be in the shop today, so just leave you with one last parting look at the insides of old 5J1113. Guys, I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you back for day 3.